and welcome. My name is Beomjae Kim. Thank you so much for tuning in today for an exciting musical journey with me. I'm very happy to share some of my new favorites and a preview of Sean Opebelo's new piece on a painting by Henry Osawa Tanner, The Thankful Poor. It has been a very difficult time for everyone and especially for performing artists and organizations. I'm so lucky to have this wonderful opportunity to share my music with you all. Everything was made possible by the great Astral team, and special thanks to Astral Nova digital series producers, James B. and Keith R. Straw, executive producers, John and Brenda Wright, and associate producers, Christopher B. and Evie Merritt, Laura Picciano, as well as a supporter who wishes to remain anonymous. Tonight's program features exciting music that I have heard at least 1,000 times when I was growing up, but the pieces that I've never played until I prepared for this event. Chaminade, Varese, Doppler, and Moilaki all wrote charming pieces. Even though I did not play them when I was growing up, but they still have some sentimental values to me. As I was practicing and recording, I felt like I was going back in time when I first heard them. I recently reconnected with these pieces when I was going through my music library. I decided to learn as many as possible, and the ones I'm sharing with you are my favorites. I recorded them with such joy, and it was also very nice to finally reconnect with one of my favorite pianists to perform with, Min Young Kang. Also, another exciting part of tonight's event is the preview of Sean Opebelo's new piece on a painting by Henry Osawa Tanner, The Thankful Poor, which was made possible by Astral artists' generous help and its micro commissioning program. The piece was going to receive its world premiere on December 6th in Philadelphia. Unfortunately, the concert is postponed to the following season. So we thought that it would be nice and fun to do a little preview and include an interview with Sean to discuss more about the piece and also his inspiration associating with the piece. I hope you enjoy the concert, and thanks again for everyone who made this event possible. Concertino by Chaminade was commissioned by the Paris Conservatoire as an examination piece. Chaminade entered a boys' club to have written the examination piece for the flute studio, and the composers include Fauré, Messiaen, Duthuet, and so on. Supposedly, she wrote this piece to punish her flute-playing lover who left her to marry somebody else. Not sure if this legend is true, but this story may have been around because the piece was difficult at the time standard. Growing up, I heard this piece so many times as this piece was a popular competition piece for young flutists. For that reason, no one wanted to hear it once more, so I never had a chance to learn until now. Because this is a popular competition piece for young flutists, most of my colleagues have shared their discomforts with this piece or not so good memories associating with this piece. But I don't have any, and I think it's simply a beautiful piece, and I hope you enjoy as well. Density 21.5. What an interesting title. This piece was written in 1936 and was composed at the request of a well-known flutist Georges Barrère for the premiere of his new platinum flute. The title comes from the density of the platinum being close to 21.5 grams per cubic centimeter. I should have learned this piece in college. The piece was one of the must-learn pieces, but I did not. My teacher at that time asked me to play the piece, but I never did. I was very much into playing and learning Romantic and Baroque repertoire, so I wasn't able to discover the charms from Density 21.5. Over the summer, however, I decided to learn the music simply because I had the sheet music sitting in my shelf. I was very surprised because I started discovering the charms I never saw 10 years ago. The piece is full of drama and excitement. It is like experiencing a monologue from a play. I would love to know how you like the piece. Franz Doppler is one of the Doppler brothers. The other brother, Carl, also played a flute. They co-wrote many of the flute duet pieces. Franz Doppler was a composition student of Franz Liszt. He helped Liszt orchestrating the Hungarian Rhapsodies. Over the summer, I went through flute recordings and heard this piece played by Emmanuel Pahud. I was forgetting about this piece so many years. The recording was so incredible, and I was reminded how charming this piece is. So I thought that this would be a perfect piece to share for this event. And as you notice from the theme of today's program, this is the first time learning and playing this piece. I hope you enjoy as well. My Philadelphia debut recital was going to happen on the 6th of December, but the concert was canceled because of COVID-19. Sean's piece was made possible with the generosity of Astral artists as part of the micro commission. The full piece will have its premiere next season, but I'm so grateful to present a preview of the piece. I want to thank artistic director Dan Visconti for connecting me with Sean, and also want to thank Sean for joining us for an interview. Hey Sean, how are you doing?
Hey, Beomjae, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for joining us today, joining me today, and joining everyone who's watching today. Um, Thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I mean, I love talking about music, and it's so exciting getting to know you through this process and to talk to you more. So, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for the Astral's wonderful financial help, and also thank you so much for writing me this wonderful music. Um, I wanted to ask you because about the piece a little more because it's this is based on the painting by American painter Henry Osawa Tanner, and the painting is called "The Thankful Poor." Uh, is this how did you discover Henry Osawa Tanner, and or is this was this the painting that you always liked?
Well, no, it's interesting. Well, first of all, I think I want to step back a little bit. So this is my second piece for solo flute, and the first piece is called "On a Poem" by Miho Nonaka, and so Harvard Square was the poem, and so I wanted to do another flute piece based on another art form. So I love the visual arts, so I wanted to do, I guess, a painting, and so I came across Tanner's work, the painting "The Annunciation," which is one of his most popular paintings, and it's pretty much his depiction of the Annunciation when the angel comes to the Virgin Mary and says, you know, you're going to be with child. He's a very religious person, and that's reflected in his art. So through that, you know, I've got to know some of his work. You know, the Banjo Lesson, which is a beautiful poem of a grandfather teaching his grandson the banjo. It's great. And then I came across the Thankful Poor. And it's the same idea of a grandfather of, well, I think it's a grandfather, an older man with a younger boy, almost teaching him a lesson, and it's just a beautiful painting of the way. He just captures that moment, the light. He's all about light in his works, and so I thought, that is a beautiful image. I would love to set, you know, I would love to create images, musical images from that visual image.
Mm. Yeah, the piece is really beautiful, and the way you wrote the piece for the flute, it's almost voice like. It has a song like a quality, and as you said, your relationship with the flute, and that you previously wrote a piece based on a poem. Was writing this piece of different experience than the previous flute piece that you wrote?
Yeah, it's a very different experience. For a couple of reasons. One, I feel more experienced writing for the flute. My first flute piece, which I love, it's in many ways it's my baby. I worked so hard on that. And that's when I really got to know the flute and honestly fell in love with the instrument. I have a confession to make. I didn't really like the flute before then, but now I love the instrument. So I fell in love with the instrument from that first piece. So I had a better understanding of the flute, what it can do, the colors it can produce. That said, the piece is quite different than on a poem by Miho Nonaka, Harvard Square, in many different ways. And I was kind of nervous writing it because, on a poem, that piece, is pretty popular, which I'm grateful for. And so when you write, your second flute piece, the sequels is never as good as like if you think of a movie, and so I was almost pressured to write a piece like just like that, but it was just very very different. And I actually approached it differently, where I don't think there was room to write a piece similar to On a Poem. And what's interesting, in this stage of my, I guess, my compositional output, my career, I'm doing a lot of vocal writing. It's really interesting that you said, it reminds you of the voice. So I'm doing a lot of vocal writing, art song and reimagination of spirituals, and I'm working on my first opera here soon. And so I think it came at that moment where I'm just thinking of the voice and how can I have a voice like quality with the flute, and it works beautifully. I think.
Yeah, the very opening phrase, the very first phrase in the piece that you wrote for me, um, what's really interesting is often when the composers want the flute to be extremely lyrical, they put slur over
Mm-hmm.
uh, to indicate the
Mm-hmm.
phrase.
Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting that I saw in your music was that there was no slur. So I started enunciating everything, and it really felt like I was singing a song.
Mm-hmm. Right, 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 right. No, and yeah, it's so funny. We didn't really talk about this, so I'm glad that you bring it up your own interpretation, because, like I said, in the painting, you have this grandfather talking to his grandson. I envision wisdom, or a serious conversation too about what you need to expect as a black man in America. And this is late 1800s, early 1900s, and just imparting this wisdom, both happy but also real and even sad. And so the fact that you said, this articulation, it's almost like that conversation he's having, but it's still, even though there's a lot of articulation, at least in the opening, it's still sweet and smooth. It's not harsh at all. And so I really envision, this older man with this soft voice, kind of just imparting some beautiful wisdom and knowledge to his grandson.
Yeah, every time I play that, the opening theme, and also throughout the piece when it's stated, it's always in the very low register
Mm-hmm.
of the flute, and also it's very um, whispering quality to it, and I always feel it really feels like as if I'm singing a song to a child.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's so beautiful, and I have never experienced something that I felt like I was singing through my instrument.
Yeah, and I love the lower range of the flute. I mean, the flute, it's such a dynamic instrument. It really, really is. And so, writing for the flute, it's a special experience because depending on what range you play it in, it's just a totally different color. And so that low sound of the flute, it produces a rich, again, song-like quality. So I'm glad you really picked up on that. I've heard you, play part of it, and you sound absolutely beautiful on it. This just almost
Thank
this
you.
rich dark sound.
One of the greatest things to work with a living composer is I can always ask the questions when I'm struggling.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. And then, I also want to hear more about the theme. How did you come up with it, and where is it coming from?
you know, um, I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, when I compose music, I start with overall form.
Mhm.
But you know, I don't know where honestly I don't know where it came from. I would love to say it just maybe just popped in my head, but I had the feel first, the emotion first, and then just this melody just came. But it didn't necessarily start with the melody. It started with with a feel. This moment, and then from that feeling, that emotion, that sweet tender moment that I was imagining in that painting, this melody came about.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, every time I'm learning the piece, every time I play the piece, it's a new
Yeah.
experience. Yeah, it's very different, and I feel like I'm discovering every little detail every time I play.
Yeah. No, I love it. And in this collaborative process, I sent you excerpts and I sent you parts of it, and then it was great to get your feedback. You had some great suggestions. I almost feel like I should put you as co-author of the piece because you provided some really great suggestions, and ideas, and you're very thoughtful too. You're a thoughtful musician, so it wasn't just about the notes. It's almost like you were challenging me. So why did you do this? What were you trying to do here? Which I'm a professor, so I teach composition and also theory, and I tell my students, my comp students, you need to know what you're trying to evoke, the message that you're trying to come across. Because a really
Mm,
intelligent musicians, they're going to want to get, they're going to want to really try to express everything they can from that piece, and also create their own voice too.
yeah, I agree because as a flutist and as a musician, I'm interpreting the music that the composer gave me, and I may not be creating something new from nothing, but I'm creating something from something, and it's a very interesting creative project as a musician.
Yeah, and so if you see my score, I'm very specific with my directives and rhythms, but in my specificity, I still I think allow for one's own voice, one's creativity. So hopefully, after you premiere the piece, many people will perform it, and I'm anxious to hear people's different interpretations of it. That's what I got from my first flute piece. It's been performed tons of times, and it's to hear different interpretations. It's just a really beautiful thing. You really get to know the actual performer based on how they interpret your music, and it's quite humbling and inspiring.
Yeah, the very first piece that you wrote for the solo flute,
Mm.
I've been seeing that more on competition as a competition requirement these days.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah. And
I
so
really hope, yeah, and I really hope the new piece that you wrote for me also becomes one
yeah,
of the standards in my repertoire
yeah,
and every flutist repertoire too.
which is good because it'll have your name on the score, so it's good.
Yeah.
No, no, I'm grateful. Yeah, so my first flute piece, it was a part of two different competitions, and so as the final round test piece or composition piece, and so a lot of people are learning it. Yeah, so I'm really grateful for that, and I really hope the second piece is just as successful. And I hope people, again, like I said at the very beginning, people will not approach this piece like they approached my first piece because it's a very different piece. Yeah, and that,
Right.
which and I actually love that it's very different from my first
Mm.
flute piece.
Yeah, due to COVID, unfortunately, I cannot give the actual premiere at the Philosophical Society in Philadelphia. But I'm so happy to have this opportunity with you to preview your
Yeah,
music, and
thank you.
hopefully, in next season, I will be able to premiere that piece in person.
No, I'm super excited about it. This is a crazy year for everyone, but
Yeah.
I'm grateful that so many arts organizations like Astral are being innovative in ways to still keep the music alive because we can't just let COVID stop us. It's hard, and so we have to be creative in that. So I'm grateful that you're premiering it even this way, and then there'll be plenty of time to premiere it in a live setting.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for joining with everyone.
No, this is great. Thank you
Thank you
so
so much
much.
for your time.
Yeah. Well, I'm so excited to hear the performance, and again, I love working with you, the creative process, and just to hear your interpretation. Y'all gonna love this. Not because of me, because of the performer, right? So thank you, Beomjae.
Thank you so much, Sean. This is the final piece of the program. The name of the composer is Pietro Morlacchi, who has been mistaken for many decades to be Francesco Morlacchi, who wrote a lot of operas. This is a showpiece written by Pietro Morlacchi, who was also a flutist. I simply avoided this music when I was growing up because I did not find the piece to be musically appealing or musically interesting. I realized, however, during the pandemic that not every music needs to be philosophically meaningful. Sometimes things need to be kept light in order to go on further in life. Not every moment is a philosophically intriguing moment. This particular repertoire helped me change how I discover a sense of humor in music, and I hope you enjoy. And thank you so much for joining me this evening.